Hello, John Bloodworth Gentleman Crafter here with another foundation paper piecing video, this time part 6, and the block that we'll be making is called Blocks in a Box. That makes sense, right? Now only 2 colours involved, however for one of the colours we have some different size strips to cut, so I've detailed these as clearly as I can in the download that you can get for yourself from my blog, gentlemancrafter.com. This pattern starts out with a central square, so I've included a dotted positioning guide for you as well. I'm going to loosely adhere the first part, wrong side facing down towards the paper, within that dotted guideline. I'll then position part 2 face down, and it should match up with the top edge of that square. Pin in place. Turn the pattern over and take it over to the sewing machine, and then I'm going to stitch on the dashed line between parts 1 and part 2. Make sure to do a lock stitch at the start and the end, and make sure you're using a very short stitch spacing. This helps you tear the paper at the end of the project. Trim your threads as you go, just for neatness. Actually, it's not just for neatness. Makes it a lot easier later on, cleaning up. Take the pin out and then fold part 2 back and press the seam. You can either use a finger presser or, of course, a mini iron if you would like to. Now we're working opposites this time as opposed to rounds. So we're going to the other end of that square, positioning part 3, pinning it in place and stitching. If you'd like to share your progress if you're following this series, please do remember that I have a Facebook group that you're welcome to come and join and share your block creations as we work through this series. We're on part 6, there will be 50 in total, you don't have to do them all, you can duck and dive into whichever ones you want, but it's really up to you, whatever you fancy doing. If you've got any questions, of course, please remember that you can list those in the comments section below the video on YouTube or over on the blog where you see this post. Now part 4 should basically fit end to end on parts 1, 2 and 3, as you can see here. When I'm working with longer strips, I like to pin at both ends just to make sure that it doesn't move as I'm stitching. But just try and avoid keeping those pin heads or pins out of the stitching line. Again, you start and stop at the beginning and end of that dashed line. Try and avoid over sewing. This block is particularly good if you want to make something in a hurry. As you can see, there are only 5 parts, and within just a few minutes we're already through and pretty much onto the last part. So if you're wanting to make a lot of blocks quickly, these are easy to cut because they are literally just strips, and they're quick to stitch together as you're sewing just lots of straight stitches. You can of course switch up the colours or patterns to make a very unique quilt top. The choice is yours. Okay, stitching of the last part. Same as always, lock stitch at the start and then stitch all the way down that line and lock stitch again at the end. If your machine doesn't have a lock stitch, just do one reversed stitch. That's all it needs. trimming the final threads, taking the pins out, and then folding the last part back. And there we go. That is the blocks in a box complete. Just remember to trim back to that solid outline and you're ready to go.